Why Lucas Giolito was the biggest first half surprise for the Boston Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the show. One more day until the Red Sox play another baseball game, and it's an exciting time given that they are in the midst of a 10-game win streak, and they have a tough schedule coming up, facing the Cubs right out of the All-Star break, and then the Phillies and the Dodgers to follow. All teams that are in first place in their respective National League divisions. So this part of the schedule is going to be a grind. Red Sox just have to keep themselves afloat, have to do their best to try to win all of those series if they can and keep the momentum going. But now that we are in the second half of the season, I put second half in quotes for those of you watching on YouTube and could see, because they are more than halfway through the season in terms of how many games they've actually played. But the All-Star break is what Major League Baseball considers the halfway point. So they just say at the halfway mark, this is where the Red Sox are at. So I'm going to be talking about the biggest surprises from the first half of the season. And you can pinpoint a lot of different things that the Red Sox this season have surprised people with, but Lucas Giolito was the biggest first half surprise. Now, when I think of surprise, I don't always think of somebody who has impacted the game in a positive way. It could also be somebody who is performing worse than what we expected. But in the case of Lucas Giolito, it is the former. He is performing a lot better than I expected he would. He ended up on the IL to start the season with a left hamstring strain. And that's a setback after he missed the entire 2024 season due to an elbow injury requiring internal brace surgery. He had been on track to start the season on the active roster before the hamstring injury, but his start to the season got delayed. And that is the number one reason why Lucas Giolito, to me, is the biggest surprise so far, because coming off of an injury like that and having missed the entirety of 2024 with your numbers in the previous seasons before that looking like they were regressing from his dominance earlier on in his career, you don't really know what version of the pitcher you're going to get. And there's a lot of skepticism surrounding the types of performances that he would offer because he had been hurt and was coming off of not playing in major league games for a long time. So you don't really know how a player is going to respond to that. So going into the season, when thinking about the Red Sox starting rotation to start the season, I put Lucas Giolito in as a question mark, as somebody that we would have to see how it goes with him. And his first few outings were rough for this Boston Red Sox team. When he came off of the injured list, he had some outings that were a nightmare. For example, on May 17th versus the Braves, he gave up 6 earned runs in that outing over just 4 innings pitched. Totally not his day. And then another outing on June 4th against the Angels, he gave up 7 earned runs and lasted just 1 2/3 innings. So there was a rough go for him for a bit there during that stretch. And things were really looking glim because I was saying, wow, if we can't rely on Lucas Giolito out of this rotation, that could be incredibly detrimental. And the Red Sox built a rotation that had the capability of being really strong, but lots of things had to go well. And as of late, Lucas Giolito has really turned things around. In his start on June 10th versus the Rays, he threw 6 innings of shutout baseball. Then again, same thing on June 16th at the Mariners. He had 10 strikeouts in that game, gave up no runs over 6 innings, and every start since then has been solid. On June 22nd at the Giants, he gave up just 2 earned runs over 6 innings, leading up to his June 28th start versus the Blue Jays, where he threw 7 innings and gave up 1 hit but no runs. Then July 4th at the Nationals, he threw 7 2/3 innings, giving up 4 hits and just 1 earned run in that outing. And his most recent start, July 9th versus the Rockies, where he threw 6 innings, gave up 4 hits and no earned runs. So yes, granted, some of the competition in there, like the Rockies and Nationals, aren't exactly true tests, but he threw really well against the Giants, and they are a very good baseball team with a good offense. And then the Blue Jays, who are leading the division right now, the American League East, he gave up no earned runs against them. So he has significantly turned his season around. His first few outings were rough because of the fact that he was really just relying on 2 pitches, and his fastball was one of those pitches, but the fastball wasn't traveling fast enough for it to be considered a threat of a pitch. And that was one of the biggest things that I noticed earlier on for him, was his arsenal wasn't really varied. And because he was coming back from injury, he probably only felt comfortable throwing 2 pitches. But I said, wow, he is going to get absolutely shelled if he doesn't make any adjustments here. So since then, he has been able to get his fastball velocity up. He's been getting it up to 97 in some of his outings, and now he has 3 to 4 pitches that he leans on as opposed to just 2. And that has helped him find a lot more success. And the fact that he's been pitching deeper into games has been huge for this Red Sox team and has been a game changer, because they were having a lot of trouble with their starters not providing length last season and earlier on in this season. This year, right now, he has a 6-1 record with a 3.36 ERA. He has 64 strikeouts and a whip of 1.23, which is also very good. The lower the whip is, the more effective you are, because that basically represents how many base runners you have in your outings. So he's not letting up a lot of base runners at all. He's 31 years old, stands at 6'6", and weighs 245 pounds. And he's had a really strong performance in away games this year with a 3-0 record, 1.95 ERA on the road, and 37 strikeouts. He is next scheduled to pitch in Friday's game against the Cubs. So the biggest thing for him is that he feels really comfortable on the road, and that has made a tremendous difference. And it's really been surprising to me how strong he's actually been. When he's giving up 0 or 1 run, that's ace caliber stuff. And my ceiling for Giolito was that he would maybe be a middle of the rotation guy, like a 3, maybe even 4 starter. But he's pitching well enough right now to be the number 2 starter behind Garrett Crochet. And I really don't think a lot of people saw that coming upon him returning from injury. And it's been fantastic. I'm hoping he can keep it up. That would be the concern I have, is as the season progresses, is he going to be able to stay consistent in that regard, or is he going to have trouble with consistency down the road? But he has been the biggest surprise to me for this Boston Red Sox team, because the impact that he has made stretches far beyond what I ever would have expected. So really hoping he keeps that up. And coming up, who has been a surprise for the Boston Red Sox in a bad way? You're about to find out. If you're looking for last-minute tickets to a comedy show, sporting event, concert, whatever it may be, Gametime is the place for you. I know you've been there. I've been there, where we've been sitting and logging on early and waiting forever for tickets to go on sale for a specific event, only to end up losing your spot for something you've been dying to see. So that's exactly where Gametime comes in, because Gametime makes getting tickets significantly faster and easier than ever. They actually drop prices as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. I use it all the time because it gives a great view from the seat to make sure it's not going to be obstructed, and it's a lot cheaper than other ticketing vendors. So it's the only one I use. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It truly does guarantee you the lowest price. I always recommend it to everybody because there is no other ticketing vendor that I use now, because I just know that the best prices are going to be on Gametime. So if you're a last minute planner like myself, or you're just looking to buy tickets really far in advance, either way, I can assure you that there are not going to be any better deals than there are on Gametime, because I experience it. As we look ahead to the second half of the season, there's a lot of cool moments to look back on from the first half with this Boston Red Sox team. For example, guys like Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer getting the opportunity to get called up to the majors, and the transitions that they have made with ease at the major league level has definitely been a pleasant surprise. Marcelo Meyer's defense and how on point that has been, whether he's playing second base or third base, has been a very welcome treat for Boston Red Sox fans to experience. But who has been a surprise in a negative way? Connor Wong is incredibly disappointing for this Boston Red Sox team and needs to be a lot better. Again, Connor Wong is incredibly disappointing for this Red Sox team and needs to be a lot better. Now, the thing with Connor Wong was that I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt for a bit, because I said, obviously his defense isn't great. He's not good at framing. He's not good at making stops behind the plate, but his offense provides enough to where it's durable for this Boston Red Sox team. Because last year in 2024, he played 126 games for Boston, hitting .280 with a 758 OPS, including 13 home runs and 52 RBIs. He set career highs in hits, home runs, extra base hits, RBIs, and walks. He also did demonstrate better defensive skills than what we're used to seeing from him, ranking among the league leaders in pop time to second base and caught stealing percentage. And that's something that Connor Wong is known for, is that he does have a really strong arm, which has helped him to find a lot of success behind the plate. It's just being able to stop balls that go to him, he has a lot of trouble with. Before the All-Star break last year, he was batting .307 with an .810 OPS. Essentially, he went 75 for 244 with 8 home runs. And after the break, he hit .246 with a .696 OPS, which is 50 for 203 with 5 home runs. So obviously, he did dip significantly after the break. And it felt like he was coming back down to reality, that he had just found a fluke of success in the first half, but that the hitter that we were seeing in the second half was more who he is and more what we could expect. So going into this season, from an offensive standpoint, I expected him to at least pick up from where he left off in the first half of last year, even if it meant finding a happy medium between his first half and his second half from last year, not allowing that decline in the second half to continue and carry over into this season, and find a way to be more effective. Now, he did miss some time with an injury, and now he's back with the team. And luckily, Carlos Narvaez, who has been a really pleasant surprise for this Boston Red Sox team, has been able to pull most of the weight at the catching position, and he definitely is the number one catcher on this team. Nobody saw that coming. Narvaez came in with very much having plus defense, but his offense wasn't something that was exactly considered a strong suit of his game. But he offensively has been one of the biggest contributors for this Red Sox team. So that 100% is a big surprise for this team in a good way if we are on the conversation about catchers. So Connor Wong, though, being as disappointing as he has been hurts because it really truly feels like he's an automatic out. And the Red Sox have done a good job of really filling their lineup with guys who are not automatic outs. Because if you think about where this Red Sox lineup was at 2 years ago, even, it really felt like the 6 through 9 hitters were all automatic outs. Now they don't really have a guy specifically who's like that besides Wong. And when he plays, it's disappointing not having Narvaez out there. He's currently hitting just 149 on the season with a total of 1 RBI. He has had 87 at-bats with 6 runs scored and 13 hits with 9 walks and 24 strikeouts, no home runs, and 1 stolen base. So those numbers have been insanely bad. And again, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt again because I said, well, he's hurt, so let's allow him some more time to continue to recover from his injury and be able to go out there and contribute in a more positive way. But even since his injury, now quite a bit of time has passed and he still hasn't been able to contribute in the way that the Red Sox need him to. So he definitely has been the most disappointing piece for this Red Sox team, I would say. But him being coupled with Carlos Narvaez has really helped save the catching situation. And it really makes you wonder, are the Red Sox going to acquire a backup catcher? I would say it's worth looking into because, again, the word backup is important here. You don't need them to be a superstar or by any means be the best player on the team, but you do need somebody who's going to be serviceable to pair behind Narvaez as that 1-2 punch. And Connor Wong hasn't exactly been serviceable this year. He's just been bad at the plate. And again, his arm strength helps him. Like always, that's still the biggest aspect of his game that he brings to the table in a positive way. But if I'm the Red Sox, I'm looking for another backup catcher. And Connor Wong's days with the Boston Red Sox could be numbered. He has been the most disappointing piece of this Boston Red Sox team. But when you look at the young players, another player who has really found his own and developed this season has been Ceddanne Rafaela, a young player who, just like players like Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, and Carlos Narvaez, has really been able to find his stride. Now, his rookie season, people were frustrated with him. And I said, let's give him some more time because he was just a rookie and his numbers really are not that bad. And it turns out he has been really able to turn things on. He's currently batting .271 on the season right now. And my biggest thing with Rafaela is that his plate discipline has improved a ton. He still doesn't like to take a lot of walks. That's definitely something he could still continue to work on, is his patience at the plate. But overall, he has been a lot better with not chasing pitches outside the zone, which was something he was really in a bad habit of doing earlier on in his career. Now that he has started to improve in that category, it has allowed him to really excel offensively. He has been able to go out there with a lot more conviction and a lot more confidence and show people that he belongs on this Boston Red Sox team. And him being the 9 hitter and doing what he's doing in the 9 hole has been such a pleasant surprise for this Red Sox team. He is arguably the most fun player to watch in the league right now, especially because he's so versatile, because he's a phenomenal defender, which was the biggest aspect of his game that the Red Sox fell in love with and the biggest reason why he's sitting here with a pretty extension right now. He plays a really sound center field, and he can even play in the infield too, although he definitely, from a comfortability standpoint, looks better in the outfield, and that's where I think the Red Sox should keep him. But not even just his phenomenal defense, but he's also fast, and his speed on the base paths is something that can be super beneficial for any team. especially a team like the Red Sox, who has relied so heavily recently on playing small ball and getting guys on base to drive in. He is always a threat to steal. So that's another aspect of Ceddanne's game that I really like. But the weakness for him was his offense at the end of last season, but he has made a lot of strides in that area and made some adjustments in terms of his plate approach and how he's going about his at-bats. And that has been a pleasant surprise to me because I did not expect him to show that much growth. Now, again, I told people early on to be patient with Ceddanne because he was a rookie and he was still trying to find his stride. But when I said be patient with him, I didn't think he would turn into the arguable best hitter on the team as of the last month or so. I did not think he was somebody who was going to be a regular contributor to the offense on a daily basis. I just thought he was going to grow a little bit offensively, but the leap that he has taken has been truly super fun to watch. And when I'm pinpointing players who have been big surprises for Boston, that certainly is one of them because his development and the strides that he's taken are far greater than I ever thought that they would be. So I love Ceddanne. He is securing more and more his spot on this team for the long term. I know they had already extended him, but that doesn't mean they for sure wouldn't have traded him. But now he's making it basically impossible for the Red Sox to say, yeah, we should trade him. But somebody they did trade was Rafael Devers. Why was that one of the biggest surprises of the season? That is coming up next. Don't forget, though, that you can subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on YouTube or any other podcast platform, as you can tune in Monday through Friday. I am here discussing all things going on with this Boston Red Sox team, and you can be part of that action every day as long as you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And after you tune into Locked On Red Sox, make sure to next tune in to Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that show goes over every game every night. So you can stop scrolling through Twitter or looking at box scores on ESPN, because our Locked On experts will give you local analysis on a national scale and keep you in the loop on everything that happened across Major League Baseball that day. So check that show out next on any podcast platform. We have made it officially to the second half, quote unquote, again, of the Major League Baseball season. And I cannot believe how fast the first half went. And with all the frustration and what we feel has been underperforming for this Red Sox team in the first half, it feels like things are finally starting to come together. And one of the biggest surprises of this season was trading Rafael Devers, and particularly why and when they had traded him, because they traded him at a time where the Red Sox had just swept the Yankees. They were on a nice little hot streak. And then all of a sudden the front office says, by the way, Devers is leaving. We're sending him to San Francisco. So it was bizarre timing, and the why behind it of all of these conversations of him being a clubhouse cancer. We knew that he wasn't interested in playing first base and that he basically said no when the Red Sox front office asked him to. But what was the most surprising and telling to me was the fact that more and more kept coming out about his behavior and about how the front office really didn't feel like it was a relationship that could be repaired. And yes, you want to send a message to your young players about what they can and can't do. And straight up refusing to play a position that your team needs you to play is something that just doesn't fly with them. But I did not think they would be that aggressive and make that kind of a move. And it really sent a message that Craig Breslow is not afraid to make those types of decisions if it's best for the long term of the Boston Red Sox. And perhaps another big surprise related to the Rafael Devers situation is how well the Red Sox have been playing in his absence. They did struggle a little bit on the West Coast, including when they played San Francisco on that trip, Rafi's new team. But after that, since the Red Sox have been starting to turn things around, they have been an offensive machine. They have been able to drive in runs in opportune situations, and they just look like they are having so much fun because when they traded Devers, it felt like the rug was ripped from under us and it was a question of where do we go from here? Are the Red Sox selling? Are they giving up on the 2025 season? But ultimately, based on where they're at right now, it could be fair to assume that Craig Breslow knew all along that Rafael Devers was preventing the Red Sox from winning more games because he was bringing the clubhouse attitude down. So that could be it. I am just so surprised at how the Red Sox have been able to respond after losing their best hitter, and things have been going very well. But one player who things weren't necessarily going well for was Tanner Houck. He has an 0-3 record on the season with an 8.04 ERA and 32 strikeouts over 9 appearances on the season. He ended up going on the IL with an elbow injury. He's expected to be back with the major league team very soon. And he had a rough go. His batting average allowed was 318 over 749 pitches thrown. And the biggest thing that surprised me about Tanner Houck's struggles was because of how well he did last season. An all-star last year and the Red Sox pitcher of the year. He was arguably the Red Sox best starter that they had in the rotation last season and was the Red Sox quote-unquote ace at the time. He wasn't pitching to the tune of ace caliber stuff, but if you're looking at what the Red Sox did have, it is fair to make an argument that Tanner Houck was your ace in 2024 relative to what you have to offer in terms of starting pitchers. His fastball velocity is typically in the 93 to 95 mile an hour range. I was surprised to see his velocity go down in his early starts this season. And he has struggled a bit in his rehab outings. He's allowed a high number of hits and runs. And the thing about that has me really concerned is that it seems to be the same problems that he was having earlier on in the season prior to getting injured that he's dealing with in AAA during his rehab assignments. And what I am worried about is him going out there and continuing to get shelled for this Red Sox team, because going into the season, I felt like maybe he would regress a little bit from last year and that he wouldn't have the same type of season that he had last year, because his season last year was very, very strong. But I did not think that he would drop down as much as he did. His first half of the season last year was solid. He was in the Cy Young conversation and obviously got voted into the All-Star game. But then things kind of changed for him in the second half and started to slip. He wasn't pitching with as much conviction. His command wasn't there as much, and he just wasn't nearly as effective in the second half. So going into this season, I said, well, which version of Tanner are we going to get? Are we going to get the first half dominant, or are we going to get the second half struggles? And this isn't even the second half struggles. This is far beyond any of that. And when going into the season, I looked at the starting rotation and I expected Tanner Houck to be the number 2 starter behind Garrett Crochet. And I said, now they finally have an ace, a true number 1 in Crochet. So where does everybody else stand? And I thought for sure that Tanner Houck was going to be the number 2 starter, and then maybe Brian Bayo at 3, and then Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito, or even Walker Buehler in the 3 spot. He hasn't been pitching as well as I was hoping that he would. I'm not as surprised by that one just because he's battled so many injuries as of late. He did shove in the postseason last year for the Dodgers, but he struggled during the regular season and was a bit all over the place in the starts that he made. So I'm not as much surprised about that one. I said a lot of things have to click for Buehler in order for him to be considered 2 or 3 starter for this Red Sox team. But the Tanner Houck situation definitely surprises me the most. If he can't come back and figure out how to perform effectively in the rotation, that's going to be incredibly detrimental, which is another reason why it enforces the importance of the Red Sox looking into the starting pitching market at the trade deadline, because you don't want to have to rely too heavily on Tanner Houck in the rotation. Because say the Red Sox do go and acquire a strong number 2 starter to put behind Garrett Crochet, with the way that Lucas Giolito and Brian Bayo have been pitching, those 4 will be the primary pieces in the rotation, and that right there could be your 4-person playoff rotation, because typically you don't go with 5 starters in the playoffs anyway. So then you don't have to worry about Tanner Houck and Walker Buehler, and you can stick them in the bullpen in order to make sure that they continue to get opportunities to go out there and throw. But Tanner Houck's struggles have been a serious concern. Can he turn it around? Yes, but will he? That's the part that I am not as confident in, just because of the fact that we haven't really seen a lot of things from him in AAA that really give me a lot of faith in his ability to come back here and just be a dominant starting pitcher for this Boston Red Sox team. So when you're looking at the bigger picture here, there have been lots of promising players having breakout seasons for the Boston Red Sox and showing that they really belong here. And the young players in particular are in that category. But then you look at a guy like Tanner Houck and you say, wow, he's been really disappointing. And maybe that was because of the injury. Maybe he'll come back and he'll be more dominant than ever. And we can look back on this conversation and say, wow, Tanner Houck really improved from the beginning of the season when he was significantly struggling and giving up an insane amount of runs. So that's what I'm hoping happens, but he definitely has been another big surprise for this Boston Red Sox team in a not so great way. So several things that have gone on with this team. The first half Red Sox in general surprised me, not in a good way. I thought they were going to be better, and the way that they've been playing as of late looks more like the team that I was expecting to see all season long. So hopefully that's the version of the Boston Red Sox that we get moving forward in the second half. But just got to continue to keep the faith, like I always say. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.